Oh, my music's still on from Terrascape. Addicted. Hey. Hi. Taking off my sweater. Hi, everybody. Twitch is so nice. I love it. I'm Twitch pilled so hardcore. I love it. Chairman Fork's asleep. I do have to do some more like admin work on it, but I haven't like got it all properly set up yet because I had a big work project the other day. So first time chat, Frontaholic. Hi. Hey everybody. Sir Zachariah. Twitch is a lot chiller for sure. Missed the combo, but that trot essay based Sally. Yeah, it's really funny. It's so good. How did the website launch go? Oh, there's so many problems we've solved. But we did like a sale, and then we did like tell us, like it's a beta test sale, so like tell us all the issues you're running into. It's still going on today, actually. Yeah, and then I have to fix a bunch of things. So, oh, new subscriber, yay. Gaddafi. What happened to Gaddafi's a great tragedy. Okay. Do you use AI to enhance the voice on your podcast? You know, Apple Podcast does immediately because sometimes it sounds too robotic. I don't use AI to enhance it, but we use this thing that removes background noise. So maybe it does that. Maybe. I don't know. You know how like if you use like CapCut, it like enhances voice or like removes background noise? It's like one of those type things similar to CapCut. So maybe it does that. Maybe it makes that effect or something. But it basically just like reduces background maybe. And then we have to equalize our voices too. So sometimes the equalizer can like make it like, you know, so maybe that's it. I'm sorry. No, I didn't hear what happened to Millennial Chaos. What happened? Oh, random string of letters is Child of the Reach. That's okay. Hi. We'll know it's you. Yeah, the new website looks cool. It works really well when I'm figuring out on mobile, but on desktop, it runs like ass. So I'm like, fuck. So we have to figure that out. Oh, yeah, I heard he quit TikTok, yes. Why do they have labor? You mean prison? They have prisons there, and you have to do labor in prisons, but that's true in the United States as well. Videos, I don't know what you mean by videos and photos of what. So, yeah, they have prisons. Yeah, I have a new website for my store. I set it up, but it runs really well on mobile, and I'm learning it runs like garbage on a desktop. So that's a problem. We'll figure it out though. Whatever. Beta test. And we changed our new backend to something that's supposed to be more scalable and better at handling things. But it's more old school. So today I have to talk to our customer service person and do like a whole training on it and stuff. Yeah, we do. We have, prisons here, exactly as Virgo said. The U.S. is the labor camp capital of the world. Totally. How many people can you guys see in here? Does it tell you? Doesn't tell me. Do we have enough people in to start yet, or are we still yapping until a few more people come? 74. 74 is pretty good. It's not bad. Should we start? Here, I'll tell you guys what we're going to talk about today. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about this Reuters article about an airstrike in Libya having to do with Sudan. And then we're going to talk about domestically this Politico article, why Hellcats could be the answer to Democrats' troubles. We're going to talk about the Democratic Party in full collapse. That's going to be funny and interesting. And then we are going to talk about Lenin's definition of imperialism, what imperialism is and what imperialism is not. And spoiler alert, imperialism is not big country does trade or big country goes to war. So 78. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. What do you guys think? Oh, Child of the Reach. It says Child of the Reach now. You're Child of the Reach now. Yay. Wow. Okay, yay. You did it. So cool. Okay, yay. Exciting. So what do you guys want to talk about first? Yeah, send it to Blue MAGA, Mao Zedong. Out me to them. You know, they didn't even like me. I spent years on that app trying to play nice and be respectful, and they still hated me. So that's when I'm like, okay, then there's no reason, right? There's no reason for me to continue to try to play nice with you. First time in the chat. Which model of socialism do you support the most? The current Chinese model, the North Korean one, or the Soviet one? That's a very interesting question. So I'm a Marxist-Leninist, and all three of those places are a form of Marxist-Leninism. But the reason why you have so many distinct different types of socialism emerging is because, as Marx said, socialism was going to look a little different everywhere. So every country runs into its own unique challenges, and then it has to resolve those challenges by forging its own path forward ideologically with slight variations. So I believe that in the United States, where I live, the type of socialism we would implement would have to be different, a little bit different than all of those. So it would, ideally, I would want it to have the same base as, those, the Marxist-Leninist base, but it would need to manifest a little differently. So one of the main things that I think in the United States would need to be different is that we are the imperial core. So our issues with imperialism would need to be addressed first and foremost. And that's something those other countries really didn't have to worry about as much, for example. So that's just one example. Yeah. You've been trying to go vegan for ages. Dairy was the hardest for you to give up. You've developed lactose intolerance, and it's helping a lot. I mean, vegan cheese is getting a lot better. But I also live in LA. I am so lucky. So I don't usually use delivery apps. I only use delivery apps when I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. Like, I'll do it like once every 4 or 5 months. But while working on this fucking website, I've been just so locked in. Like, the ADHD hyperfocus? Good morning, Say. Where you're like, I can't stop doing this. So I've been using delivery apps, and it's crazy. It's you can get 2 vegan cheeseburgers delivered for $8. And I'm like, that's my fucking go-to shtick. And vegan cheese has gotten so much better. It's just gotten really, really good. Your family is oh yeah, Christmas time, first time chat, Simmer Jaime or Jamie? Is it a Jaime or a Jamie? How much did the USSR tackle the imperialism of the Russian Empire? I would say that depends on what era you're looking at. I would say that the biggest critique most people have with the USSR actually is with Trotsky and more Trotskyist policies and a more Trotskyist interpretation of Marx, which is ironic because Stalin is the one that's hyper-vilified, right? But most of the people, they want to critique the USSR. What they're actually mad at is the Trotskyist idea of permanent revolution and how that impacted foreign policy between the USSR and nearby countries. And at a certain point, Stalin was like, we're not fucking doing that anymore. And that actually, I think, was a really positive decision for them. So up to that point, it was for different reasons, but the way it manifested to an outsider might have felt the same, right? Until Stalin kind of put an end to that. But ironically, people hate Stalin, right? They don't know, so whatever. Can't please anybody all the time. Why do people love Trotsky so much? So Trotsky's early writing, a lot of it is solid. And a lot of what Trotsky says is kind of orthodox Marxism. But what it fails to deal with is the fact that Marx said the implementation of Marxist-Leninism is going to look different everywhere. That's why Marx initially didn't ever want to write anything prescriptive. Because he's like, there is no prescriptive process. It's going to be different every single place. And Trotsky's kind of adhere to the things that Marx did say as being very, very, very biblically accurate, in a way that makes them engage in counter-revolutionary behavior sometimes. Oh my God, you paused the podcast just to come here. Yay. Yeah. Okay, so this person has a good question. Blaming Stalin for Trotsky's your Roman Empire, right? Yeah. Portugal. Welcome, Comrade Portugal. You've noticed that whenever you hear about scary, evil foreign countries, they always use terms like prison camp or rogue state. No, it doesn't mean anything. It's the same thing with the term dictator, authoritarian. These are just meaningless words that carry a lot of political weight, but don't actually mean anything. Next episode we're going to record tonight, and it's going to be about Armenia. Do I disagree with the term primitive communism? I think it's not a very sensitive way to describe indigenous communism, but the concept Marx was describing, I think, makes sense. But I don't think that's language we would comfortably use today. I think that's very outdated language. Because I don't think those were primitive societies, right? I think they were different societies. Can you give me an example of a specific country I can look into for this USSR imperialism? So usually what people talk about is they'll talk about, so Hungary, actually, when we used to use the term tanky back in the day, we didn't use it to talk about the Hungarian Revolution, actually. We used it to talk about before, when Lenin was still in charge in the USSR, to talk about Stalin going into Hungary and doing a militarized action, that was like a little aggro. That even Lenin was like, that went a little hard, and Stalin was like, it got the job done. And that was something we used to use. I think it never would have occurred to us to use the term to describe the Hungarian Revolution that came later, because we all pretty much knew that was Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Like, that was like CIA backed, right? Like, the people in Hungary admitted it. They were like, okay, we did the revolution like you said to do, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Where are the American troops to back us up? And the United States was like, ha ha ha, about that. We're not actually going to do that. And then they were like, what the fuck? But then the CIA ended up recruiting one of the leaders from that revolution to come do more work with the CIA. So, yeah, I think you're right, Hummus Guzzler. I think Hummus Guzzler is correct. That Marx was using it more like first, but I think the connotations, it's just the terminology, especially as an American, you're like, oh, that's not really a word we would use, you know? So yeah, very interesting. Okay, so we are episode 24. Started from the beginning. Oh yeah, nice. I'm reading some chat stuff I missed. Okay, cool. Big got to go. Okay, so let's start domestically. Let's start with what the fucking Democrats are up to. This is gonna be funny, right? Okay, so here's my video capture. I don't have the chat set up though when I do my screen share. So this is the little hole where ideally the chat would go. Maybe I could do like a pop out, and then maybe no, it still doesn't. The only thing, God, this is so annoying. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm still figuring it out. You know, we're still new. We're still new here. I'm not gonna be able to show the chat while we talk about this. Okay, that's all right. So we'll go back and forth, I guess, until I figure it out. So basically, what we're looking at is this story. Oh my God, no! Now it's trying to pay the HOA fee for my partner's apartment in New York that we pay. All right, so. Why Hellcats could be the answer to Democrats' troubles. I've not read this yet. Just this picture and this headline filled me with the Democratic Party rage. There's a setting on OBS to pop out the chat. I did that, but it's still not showing it. Like, I still can't see it. You know? Like, it's not showing it, like, on my screen. Unless I, like, am able to, like, edit this to, like, hold on. Add source. They should really just, like, allow you that option in here. It's so silly. The other thing I could do is I could, like, edit it to show all of OBS in the background, but then it might be, like the forever mirror issue. It will capture with the OBS source. I'm going to try to figure it out really fast. Yeah, I'm on big tech because I'm sharing my screen. That's how new to this I am. I'm, like, brand new to this. And I'm not, like, bad at technology. I just, like, have not looked. The only time I've spent on OBS is 5 minutes to do this, and then when I've been streaming. So I'm always like, oh, it's so boring for me to do this on stream with you guys, and then I just never do it off stream. So it's, like, pretty annoying. I'm so sorry. Browser? Nope. Cancel. That's not it. Maybe I can, like, image. Sorry, you can see my cursor moving. That's me in OBS. It's like I'm trying to find the setting for it. Maybe I can add screen capture with it visible for now. It's hard to figure out, right? No, my aunt and bees and some. No, it doesn't do it. I have to fucking get this all situated. See, and this is when I get annoyed. I'm like, I'll just do it next time, and then I forgot. Should I Google it really fast before we get into it? Let's say, how to make chat visible in OBS. Third party, like Stream Elements or Streamlabs. Third party providers. Okay. Well. You know, I'm not sure. Are you guys able to see the chat when it's just like my normal setup, like when it's like this. Are you able to see the chat? Oh my God, really? This picture? Okay. Well, whatever. We'll just go from here. Yes? Okay. All right. So, whatever the case, I just can't see the chat. So, here, what we're talking about is this Politico article I have not read yet. This picture, though, to me, really captures the delusion of the Democratic Party. Anybody else feel the same way? I am sure. Oh, stretch. I'll stretch. Yes. You're able to see the chat either way. It's all about me. It's all about me seeing the chat. And then I can't respond to you guys. I gotta go, like, back and forth, which is kind of a problem. Yeah. So yeah, I was trying to show it on the screen. So, okay, we've got these women here. I told you guys the Democrats were going to lean super hard into identity politics, like even more. Like they just did. You guys saw that obviously they just were like, we're conducting an autopsy. Like, why did we fail in the 2024 elections? And they have these heinous approval ratings. Their approval ratings are so like 19%. Party approval ratings. 5 days ago, right? Let's see. Approval rating for Democrats in Congress. 18% of voters approve of the way Democrats in Congress are handling their job. Okay, so they just got these heinous low approval ratings, and they're like, what do? We got to figure it out. And they do this whole study that tells them what to do, basically, why everybody hates them. And they're like, we're not releasing it. It would be bad for the party. And obviously, we know that means that people want them to actually do things for human beings and not just do things to please corporate donors. And they're like, we can't let anybody know this. So, yeah, that's pretty bad. We have the whole computer set up now. Yes, Fleckies. We're struggling with it a little bit, but we're doing it. So, yeah, everybody's mad at them. And the reason, obviously, is that the inherent contradiction of the Democratic Party is that liberalism cannot offer you salvation, right? Liberalism as an ideology, and we're talking about liberalism, big tent liberalism, that Republicans and Democrats both fall into, right? Liberalism as an ideology means that you are free to exploit workers, basically. The free market is protected, the free market of business, and also some certain individual liberties are granted alongside that. It's a freedom-based ideology. But that freedom inherently means that certain people have the freedom to harm you. And that's the inherent contradiction of liberalism. Where does your freedom to exploit people versus their freedom to not be exploited by you, where does it start and end, right? And that's the issue that liberalism is always trying to resolve. Now, Republicans will tell you that people have more freedom to exploit you than you do to not be exploited. Democrats will tell you, well, you should have a little bit of freedom not to be exploited by people. But both of them, at the end of the day, believe your exploitation is inherent and necessary to keep the system operating. Now, what's really happening, I think, is that Democrats, their liberal base, is starting to realize that, hey, the Democratic Party isn't actually able to materially protect us from the Republicans. And they're starting to notice, I think, the ratchet effect in full swing, right? The Republicans turn everything super right wing, and the Democrats never turn it back. Like, Republicans created ICE. What did Democrats do when they had power? They didn't dismantle ICE. They upped the ICE budget. And then Republicans upped it even more. And then Democrats the next terms upped it even more. So it's this effect where they just kind of yes and the person who came before them, because ultimately at the end of the day, their goals are the same. So I think this is really causing this big break in the base. And obviously, we actually know Gaza was a major issue for people. And the Democrats refused to acknowledge that, refused to believe that was true, that foreign policy could be a major issue for the United States. I told the story on TikTok once before, but I'll tell it here too in case anybody missed it. I was on an airplane last year before the election, and I was with my friend Lizzie. And Lizzie's been on the podcast before, if you've heard Lizzie. Lizzie is like an art girl, but she also worked for like a bunch of weird NFT tech companies because she does a bunch of 3D and tech stuff, and she always talks about how surreal these experiences were. So it got her kind of interested in politics, because she's like, this is clearly a scam. Like, what's going on with this NFT stuff? Like, what? Like, a company tried to pay her in NFTs, whatever. So then she got really interested also in China, because she was studying tech, and Chinese tech, it was just so pervasive at the time. So I call her a commie curious. She's like a commie curious kind of person. And she's very, very intelligent. So whatever. So it's me and her sitting next to this guy. And the guy starts talking to us. And he identifies that he is with the DNC. Okay. So he's probably not super high up. It's not like we were sitting in first class, right? But he works with the DNC, and he's like, so you guys are getting ready for the election coming up. Can I, you're young people, didn't understand that I'm 40 and just dress like a goofball, but whatever. He's like, you're young people. Like, can I pick your brains about the election, about politics? And we were like, sure. Yeah, go for it, man. Whatever. Stuck on an airplane with you. So he starts asking us all these questions. And he's like, who are you going to vote for? And I was like, oh, I'm going to probably vote for Claudia de la Cruz. And he's like, what? You're a third party voter? And I was like, yeah, I've registered third party since 2004. Like, yeah. And he was really, really confused. And he's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Like, why wouldn't you vote for the people who are going to help you? And I was like, I'm voting for the communists, the socialists who want to help me. A Democratic Party's not going to help me. And he's like, well, what are your issues you care about when you vote? What do you care about? And I said, foreign policy. And he was like, what? And I was like, foreign policy. And he was like, nobody says that. Your issue is not actually foreign policy. And I was like, it is. My greatest issue is foreign policy. Can you explain to me how the Democrats are different from Republicans on foreign policy? And then maybe we can talk. And he was like, well, okay, like, obviously the Democrats aren't different from the Republicans on foreign policy. He fully said it. He's like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to bullshit you. Yeah, the foreign policy is the same. But, like, don't you care more about things like abortion access or health care or things like this? And I was like, yeah, well, I do. And that's why I actually voted for Barack Obama in 2008, because he said he was going to do healthcare, and then he didn't. So, yeah, you guys haven't shown. And then you guys actually used the Heritage Plan, their healthcare policy. Those are the Republicans. Those are super far right Republicans. So, yeah, no, you guys aren't the party for healthcare. Sorry. And he's like, well, for healthcare. And he's like, well, what about abortion? And I was like, yeah, and I also voted for Obama that year. He said he was going to codify Roe v. Wade, and he didn't. So you're not the party for abortion rights either. And this guy was just tripping out, and he was like, well, so what, you want Donald Trump to win? And I was like, no, I don't like him either, but, like, you guys aren't presenting, like, an alternative, and, like, if my greatest issue is foreign policy, you admitted you're not any different, so why would I vote for you? And he, like, refused to believe that I actually cared about foreign policy. So then he was questioning me. He's like, what are your biggest foreign policy issues? And I was just, like, rattling them all off. Gaza, obviously, it was at the top of the list, but I kept going. And then by the time I got to free Hawaii, why do we own Puerto Rico? That's fucking weird. He was just like, why are you asking about Puerto Rico and Hawaii? Like, he was so upset. And I'm like, because it's fucking weird. It's fucking weird that we have colonies. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to vote for these fucking entities who want us to have colonies in the big 2025. Like, that's insane. Like, what? And then he got so upset, he literally started screaming at me about abortion. And he was screaming so loudly that the people who worked on the airplane had to come over and tell him to be quiet, because he was literally yelling abortion on an airplane. This is how much I enraged this man from the DNC. And my friend Lizzie the whole time is just like, and she's even like, I'm not, like, super into politics, but I know enough to know, like, the Democratic Party is not it. Like, what? So that was, like, a very interesting thing. So whatever. So Democrats are very far removed from actually understanding what their voter base wants. Like, they don't understand. And it literally did not occur to them that Gaza would actually be a major issue for voters, because they have taken the idea that humans are inherently empathetic off the table. They're like, no, you're going to vote for your best interests. So, come on, it's not Donald Trump. And it's like, well, no, my best interests include not bombing children in Gaza. That, even if I was the most selfish person in the world, that would still improve my best interest, because I'm smart enough to understand imperial boomerang theory, which means that whatever we do in other countries is a testing ground for what Americans will let us get away with at home. The increasing militarization of the world leads to increased militarization of our domestic policing, right? Or domestic police stations. All of this stuff is related. It does not benefit me in any way to bomb children in Gaza. Like, that's not my best interest. I'm not voting for that. So I think that probably my best guess, based on the study they did of themselves and why they failed in the 2024 election that they scrapped and now will not release, is that it probably did have a lot to do with foreign policy. They're probably learning in real time that Americans do care about foreign policy. Not the people on TikTok who make jokes about being the butcher of Pyongyang when talking about the massacre of millions of people in Korea at our hands, right? Those people are depraved, soulless, evil ghouls at this point. But, people with a heart and a soul care about foreign policy, and they're not going to vote Democrat as a result of it. They're just not. Our cops are trained in Israel. Great point. Also, on top of that, like, they probably are realizing that they're going to have to start throwing bones. They're going to have to start throwing bones. The whole thing about the Democratic Party is that they have existed to make sure we don't actually get a left-wing opposition party in the United States, right? That's their whole purpose. But to do that, they need to throw enough bones here and there that the American people are pacified. When is the last time the Democratic Party threw their voting base a bone? When is the last time the Democratic Party actually did something that materially improved the lives of their voting base? Joe Biden kind of canceled student loan debt for a few people. I qualified because my school went out of business, but I'd already paid off the majority of my student loans. So I had like $5,000 in student loans forgiven, which was great. Thank you. But that's not enough to materially change my life. And also that only happened because I was on the small list of people who qualified because I went to a for-profit college, trade school that had gone out of business. And that made me qualify to have the remainder of my student loans forgiven. So it's like, that's not really helping most people. Right? So there's absolutely nothing. They're throwing a bone for people. Like if they ran on a $25 federal minimum wage, they'd probably win an election. It probably wouldn't even be that hard. They just need to give something. And they won't. And they're not. And they can't because their corporate donors will not allow it. So I think that that's probably what the study revealed. That it wasn't, they thought it was going to be something more like put a girl boss, lesbian queen of color in the White House and we'll vote for her. Because identity politics are all they can do because it doesn't materially affect their donors in any way. It doesn't take profit out of rich people's pockets. But probably the report showed them that people don't care about that. People don't want to vote for Hitler, even if it's girl boss, lady queen, lesbian Hitler. Like people they're not interested in that. They're not buying that, right? They don't even, so this Hamon Pizza, yes, they don't even deliver on their promises. They still won't even pretend. It's like they just needs to say they're going to do it even, and they won't, and they don't, which is wild. So my guess is that's what's going on now. So I think that really ties in with what we're looking at here and why this picture, knowing that, is so dystopian. And they're out, we've got these Hellcats, we've got these women, this diverse group of women in the Democratic Party that are going to make you want to vote for them again. And I'm sorry, but the only people this is appealing to are millennials with six-figure salaries. Millennials who make $85,000 to $120,000 a year. That's who this appeals to. And not just millennial women, millennial men in that group as well, millennial liberals in this group, they will see this and be like, that solves everything, because they are so far removed from the average everyday struggle that most working class people go through. They have no class consciousness, right? So this is who's going to like this, and then they're going to mercilessly harass the rest of us on the internet when we say this does nothing for us. This picture does nothing for me. This does not fill me with joy. This does not fill me with inspiration. This is not helping. So let's go on and we're going to read now about this. I didn't go to FITM. I went to an AI. I went to AI school, Art Institute in San Francisco. So, all right. When you guys know I can't pronounce anything. And also, I don't pay attention to the representatives all over the country. I'm just like, some guy did something. Yeah, so sorry. I don't really know how to pronounce these people's names a lot. So when Representative Mickey Sherrill, I'm guessing, won the New Jersey gubernatorial primary on Tuesday, the Hellcats group chat of aspiring female congresswomen lit up in celebration. All four women in the Hellcats chat, it's just four of them. So they really just think like four women who don't even have political power yet, but are aspiring to it. Madeline uses AI. Art Institutes. Mikey, thank you. So they really think these four women who are interested in running for Congress are going to fix them. It's four women, yes. All four women in the Hellcats chat, named after the first female Marines who served in World War I. Democratic Party outing themselves as being fucking bloodthirsty, military-obsessed ghouls. Have military experience. Of course they do. And are running for Congress in 2026. So this is what I mean. Their autopsy probably revealed that American voters were deeply disturbed at American war and violence and the war machine around the world. And they're like, what'll fix it? We'll get some women from the military in power. That'll do it. Like, what? Like, they're so, they're so removed. So Sherrill a former Navy helicopter pilot, offers some much needed inspiration for the party's next generation of candidates. They're just doubling down on, like, yes, we are a pro-war. I like that you guys can see my ads too. I was looking for health insurance. Okay. Democrats looking to turn around their struggling brand and retake the House in 2026 point to Cheryl and presumptive Virginia Democratic gubernatorial nominee Abigail Spanberger, a former congresswoman and CIA officer, as reasons the party will do well. They're like, I know you guys keep telling me to turn on ad block. I'll deal with it. This is what I mean. I don't deal with things right away. And then I forgot. Yeah, I got canceled for mispronouncing Kamala. Also, everybody in California has called her Kamala my whole life. Like, my whole life, we've all called her that when she was in San Francisco when I lived there. So I'm like, okay. They're so delusional. I don't think I'll make a Discord. That's too much for me to manage. This is a lot for me to manage. We'll see how it goes. So, yeah, they're delusional. They're like, get the CIA in there. The people will love it. So Cheryl and Spanberger are held up as the model for how the party might turn the tables, running moderate former veterans and national security officials in tough districts who say they can say they have put their country ahead of their party. According to Dan Cena, who served as the executive director of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee in 2018. Okay, and this is wild because it's like, this is what people don't want. You lost by being moderate. Anybody to whom conservative values are appealing will just vote conservative. Why would they vote conservative light? They have no reason to vote conservative light. Now, I will say, the Democratic Party has succeeded in pulling a large amount of their base super far right with them. You talk to liberals on the internet today, they're very, very different than the liberals of 2020. And the Kamala election cycle really did this to them. You see that the Kamala election cycle dragged these people super far right wing along with the Democratic Party. But they also lost a lot of people. There's a lot of people who had previously voted who just didn't vote because they were like, I don't like any of these options. So this idea they're obsessed with, that going this moderate way to appeal to conservative voters is gonna grant them salvation, it's a failure. It's a fallacy. Nobody wants to vote for this. Exactly. We tried. They got Dick Cheney's endorsement and they thought that was going to help them. So I have to imagine that this strategy is completely at odds with what their autopsy report revealed. Yeah, it's very, very wild. So let's see. Cena added, candidates with records of service showed in 2018 their ability to win in the most challenging districts and states in the country. This cycle, the same dynamics are playing out with those kinds of candidates. But it's like, you didn't win big. You know what it is? It's like, have you guys seen the diagram of the airplane? And they would look at the airplanes that came back from war, and they would look at the bullet holes where they were, and they would reinforce where all of those holes were so that the plane would be stronger. But what they didn't realize is that they should have done the opposite, because they had survivor's bias. The planes that came back had survived, which meant taking bullets to those areas actually wasn't a big deal. The planes that didn't come back probably had taken damage to the other places on the plane, and that's why they didn't come back. They didn't make it. So they needed to actually reinforce the areas without bullet holes, because those were the planes that went down as a result of their damage. This is literally what the Democratic Party is doing right now. They're like, well, in the few areas we were able to win, it was because we had military people. So we'll just run more military people. And it's like, you are not looking at the planes that did not make it back. You are not looking at the areas you did not win and why. Like, this is very, very weird. First time in the chat, Bonkovic. Not to mention, literally the only thing I saw from Democrats targeting younger people was their stupid brat campaign that offered nothing. Yes, exactly. And what young people want, they want their life to not be fucking scary. You ever talk to a young person? They're fucking terrified. They are terrified about the world. They're like, shit's looking bleak. Climate change is killing everything. They want hope in the future. That's what they want. They want shit that's going to materially help them, and the idea that there's going to be a future for them. You know? They want to think they could buy a house. They want to think that they can have free health insurance. They want to think these very normal things. They want to think they'll have money to travel, that they won't have to work until they die, that they can have a good, well-paying job. They want hope, you know? And these people are not doing that. Last election cycle pushed you left, actually made you a commie. Yes, Fleckies. And that's what I mean. It dragged a lot of people further right, but it abandoned a lot of people. So, Democrats say these House candidates can point to their political aspirations as an extension of their public service that began in the military or national security realm and bristle at Republicans claiming MAGA is equivalent to patriotism. I don't think the average American is that concerned with what is or is not patriotic right now. Like, who is telling them this? That this is the thing people care about? This is crazy. Like, what is this pink blazer supposed to do for me? You know what I mean? This is pandering in the most pathetic way. Right now, is this Spanberger? Is this the fucking CIA chick, too? Yes, Spanberger, former congresswoman and CIA officer. This is supposed to motivate me to think the Democratic Party's got it together? Absolutely not. Right now, especially as this administration continues to create more chaos and dismantle our democracy, you're seeing veterans continuing to answer the call to service their country, said Joanna Mendoza, a retired U.S. Marine who served in combat, now running to challenge our Representative Juan Ciscomani in Arizona. Mendoza is a member of the Hellcats group chat, along with Rebecca Bennett, a former Navy officer who's taking on Representative Tom Keene in New Jersey, Maura Sullivan, a former Marine looking to replace Representative Chris Pappas, and Kate Conley, an Army veteran and former National Security Council official who is up against Representative Mike Lawler. Okay, yeah, all right, cool. They're just going full security state. It's wild. Oh, let me see. I was a damage control voter before. Honestly, I hate the Democrats now. Yep, exactly. That's what they've really done. So Democrats say these candidates bring in necessary enthusiasm that translates to fundraising. Okay, so they're able to get fundraising money. But it's like, we saw, how much did Kamala Harris's campaign blow again? Right? Like, Kamala Harris campaign budget. $1.5 billion. Is that right, AI? Yes, it is. The New York Times confirms. $1.5 billion. And she still couldn't win an election. So it's like, why are you focusing on fundraising? Fundraising's not your problem. You know how to raise funds. You don't know how to win elections. Wasted so much money. Yeah, imagine thinking that the people, and here's the thing, we know the Democrats aren't the left. The Democrats don't know they're not the left. They think of themselves as being progressive and left-wing, right? So the Republicans and the Democrats both know, like the actual political parties, they both know they're right-wing parties, right? They both know they're pro-capitalism, pro-military parties. The average Democrat voter doesn't know that. So when they see the Democrats going full mask off, just like military, yay, blow them all up, some Democrats are like, okay, that's what we're doing now, I guess. I'll follow the Pied Piper. But some are like, what the fuck? Like, I'm confused because they're not in on it. They're not in on the bit, right? So, you once saw a Democrat posting on TikTok saying it was the leftist fault for not voting for Kamala, and now she's posting about being a leftist. I mean, yeah, there's a pipeline, man. And that's why I try not to be too personally cruel to these people, because I'm like, you'll get there, babes. You will get there. I mean, they will, but when they're on the internet and they're attacking us, you know, you feel the need to defend yourself and your positions and point out when things are ghoulish, evil, antisocial behavior, because they need to hear it. They frankly need to hear it. All roads lead to Marxist-Leninism. I'm convinced we are Rome. So, all right, let's see. We're talking about fundraising. All right, in Pennsylvania, Ryan Crosswell, a Marine and federal prosecutor who resigned when Donald Trump pressured him to drop charges against New York Mayor Eric Adams, raised more than $215,000 in the first 48 hours of announcing his campaign on Monday, one of the biggest launch hauls that the party has seen this cycle. But that is literally just because he did something against Donald Trump, right? Something material against Donald Trump. So even the Democratic Party's voter base, they hate Donald Trump, yes, but they want to see somebody materially standing up to him. And this is what's wild. It's like they weren't doing that because he's a Marine. They're doing that because he quit his job in the face of Donald Trump doing something, and they view that as a material action that they've been desperate for from the Democratic Party that they have not been getting. Spanberger posted a selfie on X just minutes after her one-time Washington roommate, Cheryl, run her primary race in New Jersey on Tuesday. The pair is using their profiles as a springboard to higher office after many of them helped Democrats flip the House in 2018. In Michigan, former CIA analyst Senator Alyssa Slotkin fought off GOP rep Mike Rogers, himself an Army veteran, in a state that Kamala Harris lost in 2024. New Jersey Senator Adam Kim, a former Department of State advisor on Afghanistan, easily won his election for the seat once held by former Senator Bob Menendez, who was convicted of federal corruption charges. Like, I'm willing to bet if we look up Mike Rogers, he was a real easy candidate to beat as well. Like, they're like, we beat this guy who's convicted of corruption charges. Like, I'm sorry, Senator Bob Menendez would have been really fucking charismatic to pull that one off. He would have had to have Donald Trump level charisma to make that happen. Like, again, they're doing the plane thing. They're looking at the few planes that came back and not the ones that didn't. Patriotism is a value that the Democrats shouldn't be afraid to talk about, says Jared Leopold, a former communications director for the Democratic Governors Association. Sorry, I just choked a little. It is a productive conversation for Democrats to lead on as an entry point to the kitchen table issues of the day. I want to know how many Americans are patriotic. Should we look it up? Rogers was incredibly unpopular. Okay, see, I'm like, I feel like these are not hard candidates to beat. Like, what? Yeah, I don't know. So I want to look at what % of Americans claim they are patriotic. I'm just curious. Okay, so this is from 2025 June. American pride slips to a new low. 41% of Americans claim they are extremely patriotic or proud to be an American. 17% claim they are very proud to be an American. And this is slipping down 9 percentage points from last year and 5 points below the prior low from 2020. So, yeah, this is not... Look at this. Look at this chart. In 2001, that was after 9/11. That's a little bit of a cheat, okay? 87% of Americans were proud to be an American. We just had a huge, big national disaster of some kind. So very proud, extremely and very proud combined. This is them combined. But if you look at this, it's like, this is a slipping number. You know, this is not, I would not base your party on this. And you have to assume, okay, 58% of Americans say they're extremely or very proud to be an American, whatever. If you're assuming 50% of the country are Republicans, so that means 8%. This is bad math, but you know, we're just workshopping a rough idea. What does that mean? Less than 10% of your Democratic Party voting base is patriotic. Why are you trying to appeal to that? What is that going to do for you? Right? That's like, remove the Republicans from this figure. Who's left in your Democratic Party base? That's wild. So whatever. This guy, Jared Leopold, who's the former communications director at the Democratic Governors Association, says it is a productive conversation to Democrats. So we talked about that. Yeah, kitchen table issues of the day. Democratic candidates with national security backgrounds mitigate one of the party's biggest liabilities, a perception that Democrats are weak. I'm sorry, I don't think that's why any of us thought they were weak. We think they're weak because they don't do anything. And Democratic voters think they're weak because they cannot imagine that the Democratic Party never wanted to do anything. We on the left know, I mean, they're not actually weak. They're doing exactly what they set out to do, which is nothing, because it benefits them, right? The Republican policies and agendas benefit Democrats, the Democratic leadership anyway. They benefit the Democratic donor base. The more you inch towards fascism, Democrats profit off of that too, right? They make money off of that. So the reason why their voter base thinks they're weak is because they don't understand that. They don't understand the Democrats don't want to stand up to Republicans. So when they look at them and they're like, well, all these Republicans are able to stand up to you. Why are you not able to stand up to them? The only solution they can come up with is that you're too weak to do it, right? I mean, which is true, but it's also their motivation's not there. They don't have the motive. So it's not like getting a bunch of military guys in the Democratic Party is going to make their voters think they're not weak. Like, that doesn't do anything. The weakness that their voters are talking about is the lack of material action. So like that one guy who got $215,000 in fundraising, that's because Democrats feel he materially did something. He resigned his job in protest. It's a material thing. He did something. And that's what the Democratic voters want to see. And the sad thing is they're never going to see that. They are never going to see that unless it's someone like Zohran Mamdani who says, I want to bring people back to the Democratic Party. I don't even think he's a democratic socialist at this point. He's a social democrat, if we're being honest. But he's smart in that he knows you have to throw the people a bone to make them vote Democrat again. And that's what he's doing. He's throwing the people of New York City a bone, saying, hey, look, I'm going to do a little for you if you let us get away with a whole lot. And that's what they have to do. That is the strategic smart move that they are not doing. So Democratic-run focus groups held after the 2024 election found voters across the spectrum saw the party as overly focused on the elites and too cautious. Their donor base. They're not going to upset their donor base. Exactly. Voters regularly cite Republicans as the party they trust with national security issues in public polling, and the GOP bench of veterans elected to office runs deep. But serving in the military or for the administration in a national security capacity inoculates them from attacks that they're not enough. This is funny because I was searching for some political thing about Amazon, like Amazon unionization and how it's going to be Amazon hats. Okay, breaking up the wrong tree there. So serving in the military or for the administration in a national security capacity inoculates them from attacks that they're not tough, said Amanda Littman, co-founder of Run for Something, a group that recruits young people to run for office. It helps them ward off that opposition without having to say it out loud, Littman continued. Former Navy helicopter pilot, prosecutor, those are inherently tough. So that means these women candidates don't have to posture. They can just be because it's baked into their resumes. Again, girl boss Hitler. They're like, look, we gave you girl boss Hitler. Look, this woman committed war crimes. Don't you love her? That's what you want? Yeah, Democrats pulling defeat from the jaws of victory since 1980. This is correct. March Million, it seems like Democrats aren't interested in getting votes from the left, but rather from the right, especially with the military optics. They're literally running the same game as Republicans. Yes, exactly. Of course, Republicans have at times effectively turned it against them. Former Democratic presidential nominee John Kerry, for instance, highlighted his military experience, but also faced swift boat attacks. More recently, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's military record came under scrutiny when he was elevated to the vice presidential nomination. Yeah, it's almost like this isn't... Your voters want to be able to go to farmers markets and the library and drive Subarus and carry tote bags and think that they are saving the world. They know the U.S. military is not saving the world. Like... Give them something to believe in. Build the mythology better, right? This is not the mythology they want to see. This is too real. This is too mask off. They're like, we'll get a bunch of CIA agents and people who committed war crimes in there. You'll love it. Too mask off. Walk it back. Walk it back. This is like when Gavin Newsom, I'm pretty sure, just published a thing talking about what a great man Ronald Reagan was. It's like you're being too literal. You're scaring the hose. You're scaring the hose. Walk it back. Walk it back. Bennett, who is also current member of Air National Guard, believes her dual identity as a veteran and mother gives her unique appeal to voters and a natural way to discuss financial strains like high daycare costs. I mean, the mother thing, yes, just get a bunch of moms. Talk about childcare. Talk about childcare costs. Present a plan to provide free childcare. That is a material thing you could do that would get you more votes. But it would cost money, so people won't do it. The Democrats won't do it. I truly led in some of the most challenging environments that exist in this world, she said, and I'm a mom too, and I fundamentally understand the issues and challenges that families are facing. Okay, see, that's the whole bullshit fucking weird Politico article. It's pathetic. It's so pathetic. Hydrate. Oh my god, but I only have this. That means I have to go get water. I'll bring my computer with me. We'll travel and chat. We'll travel and chat while I get water. Someone did the hydrate. What do you guys think about this? Like, they're just so delusional. Like, it's wild. Laptop in the kitchen. I have a filter on my tap water, don't worry. I know, Democrats are so incompetent. And that's the thing, it's like, the funniest part about this is like leftists who hate the Democratic Party. Like, the Democratic Party should crumble. It should be absolutely destroyed, right? Like, it is a source of evil, and as long as it exists, it is always going to stand in the way of us developing an actual left-wing opposition party here, right? I am happy they are fumbling the bag this hard. I'm happy they're going mask off, and they're like, of course we're going to give you military guys. We're also the party of blowing up children in other countries. Like, duh. I'm happy about that because I hope it makes people wake up. But also, it's just so frustrating to watch somebody fumble so badly. You, like, start losing your mind. You're just like, If you ever watch pimple popping videos and you see somebody struggling to pop a pimple and you're like, move out of the way, I'll do it. That's what it feels like watching the Democratic Party struggle to do this. It's like, is tap water that bad? Did you filter? In my neighborhood, the water's really, really bad. In LA, the water's bad in general. In my neighborhood, it's especially bad. Yeah, so we do need a filter here. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Did I see Jackson Hinkle say the F slurred? Yeah, I did see that, man. I think I saw it because you posted it. I think you posted it in my comments and I saw it. And I was like, that's why we don't fuck with the ACP. Weirdos. It's like, some workers are gay. Get over it. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. Oh, you just looked into these candidates. Okay, Father of the Died has some intel for us. Maura Sullivan, Zionist. Rebecca Bennett, Zionist. Kate Conley, Zionist. Joanna Mendoza, Zionist. Stretch, we'll do a stretch. It's wild, and it's like they literally, so their autopsy probably came out and was like, yeah, they didn't like the Zionism, and they're like, well, the Zionists are like some of our biggest donors, and we need that military base out there, so that's not changing. Oh, yeah, very, very wild. So yeah, evil. For us in my neighborhood in particular, is a bunch of the lime scale. I mean, our pipes, so I live in the oldest neighborhood in Los Angeles, for reference. So everything's kind of like fucked up here. Our pipes are real bad. So it's just, encroaching. Okay, so we're talking, for those of you who just joined, we're talking about water quality in LA. But we're actually talking about the Democratic Party being absolute ding-dongs about what's going to save them, basically. Just being so, so silly. If commies get power here, do they kill all the politicians or send them to jail? I guess it depends on what commies, man. I don't know. The petite bourgeoisie does love fascism. Yes, because they think it's going to help them. They're like, this is going to help me, right? Like, I'll make money. It's so goofy. Do we think that the Democrats are winning the House next year? I don't know. Here's what I think. I think the Democrats would have to put out some real fucking loser candidates to not win this year, because Donald Trump has been loud and proud and bad about it, right? And he's going to be out of office, obviously. So I think that whoever the Democrats pick to run next, if they are even kind of okay, kind of well liked, I think that people will be so over a Republican presidency that they'll probably vote for the Democrats. So they probably will have the next win for the federal offices in the bag. But the House is different, because the House is so localized. So I'm not sure about the House. I think they'll probably win the presidency, unless they really tout out some other garbage candidate. They're talking about running Kamala Harris and Mark Rubio. If they run Kamala Harris and Mark Rubio, they're going to lose. If they run Gavin Newsom, they're probably going to win. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. Because people hate Donald Trump. And a lot of people who didn't vote last time, as long as they don't pump out a candidate that's like an open, out and proud Zionist, they'll probably win. And people will honestly forget. They'll forget about Gaza. They'll forget. People are already starting to forget. And the American public has a short memory. So they'll probably win back enough of their voters if that's the case. But if they try to run Kamala Harris again, they will lose again. Who could be more of a loser than Hillary, TBH? And that's the thing. They keep pumping out these horrible women. And they're like, but they're women, so you'll vote for them. And when people are like, no, these are horrible women. These are horrible women. You gave us a war criminal and a cop. Like, what? Like, they don't want to vote for that. Nobody wants to vote for that. Then they're like, you hated them because they're women. You're like, what? No, I think it was the war criminal and the cop thing, if I'm being honest. It's absolutely wild. They'll forget about Gaza as a hard pill as well. I know, they will. They will. They'll forget. Some people won't. But some people will. And I say that because Gaza has been going on. And I tell you guys this, not to pat myself on the back, because I'm not the only person who said this. 2016, though, when all my friends were super Bernie broed, super Bernie pilled, and I was like, he's still a Zionist. The only people who agreed with me were Jewish people. Nobody else, everybody else was like, what the fuck? Why would you even care about that? The only people who agreed with me were Jewish punks from LA whose parents taught them that Zionism was awesome, and they saw it firsthand, and they're like, yo, fuck that. Those are the only people who were talking about Gaza that I knew in LA. You were either Middle Eastern, Palestinian yourself, or somewhere adjacent, Yemeni, something like that, or you were a Jewish punk rocker whose parents tried to shove Zionism down your throat, and you were like, rejected. that was it. Those are the only people who even understood what I meant when I said Bernie Sanders is still a Zionist in 2016. But think about this. The Nakba happened in 1948. The Nakba was still going on. They were still murdering innocent Palestinian children in 2016. They had been my whole life, right? And people just didn't pay attention because it wasn't in the news cycle. So they're going to forget. They're going to forget. And the only people that will stay remembering are the communists, the anti-imperialists, the people from the Middle East who know what that means, right? People from Palestine, yes, but people from Yemen, people from Iran, people from anywhere nearby Israel who understands what Israel does in that area, and the rebellious Jewish children of Zionists who have been holding it down in LA. I will say they are holding it down. My partner in New York is Jewish, grandmother, like East Coast kind of Jews, fled during the Holocaust, fled Germany during the Holocaust. And they're one of the only people also that understood when I was like, yeah, Bernie Sanders is a Zionist. They were like, yeah, so they're the only people. So, I was never on the Bernie train. I never really was. Here's what I will say. I like when Lenin talks about, and when Marx talks about bourgeois elections and working with democratic socialists, if there is not a socialist candidate, like an actual commie candidate running, I will vote for a democratic socialist candidate if that's the only thing I have, right? In certain things. So I actually re-registered away from Peace and Freedom Party to the Democratic Party to vote for Bernie Sanders in the primary when they talked about closing off California's primaries. I was like, well, fuck it, I'll do it. Why not? Whatever. And then they didn't close the primaries and I re-registered Peace and Freedom Party. So there was a period of time where I was registered Democrat to vote for Bernie Sanders in a primary. So I'm not above like that kind of electoralism bullshit sometimes, but in a primary. I don't know what I actually would have done for president. If there had been somebody running for president, I probably would have voted for a communist for president, like I usually do. So I'm not sure. I was more in support of Bernie Sanders than a traditional Democratic candidate. And I remember thinking at the time, Bernie Sanders is what the Democratic Party should be. Like, he is a Democrat, like through and through. He is a Democrat. Like, he says he's a democratic socialist. I don't think he actually is. I think he's a Democrat, though, and that's what the Democratic Party should be. They are just moving so far right that they don't even understand. That's not radical. That's just what you guys are supposed to be doing. Still a Zionist, still weird about military action, not anti-imperialist, but like, here's more bones thrown at you here at home kind of a vibe, Yeah, people like Bernie and Zoran make communists. That's so true. And that's why I'm like, there's hope with Zoran Mamdani that so many people were interested in the idea of socialism, at least, right? They were interested, and they're going to be turned off by this. Okay, hold on. I got to check my timer. I thought I set all these timers. Oh, I did. I'm supposed to be done streaming at 9:30. But I'm going to go a little longer. I started a little late. We'll go a little longer. It's only cutting into making TikTok's time. Is registering Democrat in a closed primary state to vote for the most left-leaning Democrat a good idea to kind of push the Democratic Party left? It depends. So if you have a socialist party in your state, like here in California, we have an actual socialist party. It is the Peace and Freedom Party. They have ballot access, and they run coalition of candidates from multiple different communist and socialist parties up and down California. So that's why I said, out of the vote socialist candidates, 4 out of the 5 right now are PSL candidates. But one of them is not. And that's Alistec. So these are all different candidates under Vote Socialist. They happen to have a lot of PSL candidates right now, but they don't always. They run a bunch of different other candidates. One year they ran Roseanne Barr. That's the year I did not vote. I was like, Roseanne Barr, this is bullshit. I'm not fucking voting for this. But, they ran like Leonard Peltier, right? Like, he's an indigenous socialist one year that in my lifetime. So they run a bunch of candidates from different things. It is really important in California to support Peace and Freedom Party because they have secured ballot access. That is a special thing we have to protect. Most other states don't have that. Minnesota actually has one. They have some protected workers party thing as well. I'm not sure how Marxist it is or isn't, but if you have that, it's important to register for that party, to vote for them. Or not even if you vote for them, but just to register for them, it gives them protection on future elections and gets them on there. If your state does not have that, and there's not much of a socialist party there vying for ballot access, it probably is good to register Democrat and just vote for the most left-leaning people you can. I don't know. But I would say that, electoralism, it's goofy. It's goofy and weird. It's not going to save us unless you have explicitly stated Marxist-Leninists running on a Lenin model of electoral engagement. Electoralism is not going to do anything for us. And so that's why I like the Peace and Freedom Party candidates, is that they're usually Marxist-Leninists and they're running on a Lenin model of electoral engagement, which is that they view elections as an opportunity to raise socialist consciousness to the masses. They use these elections as an opportunity to point out the shortcomings and failures of the capitalist system, what you are not able to do within a capitalist system, no matter how progressive the people in charge are, what the system will not let you do, and to talk about realistically, with experience, what it would take to move this system into the system we want to see. So, yeah, very interesting. When do I think the American Revolution will happen? I think that right now we're in the building socialist consciousness stage. I do. I think that the first thing we have to do is make Americans understand socialism is not the enemy. And we don't have to make every American understand that, but we have to make enough people understand that. Most people aren't ideologues. Most people don't have super, super strong political opinions. Even some who say they do, they don't. So, most people just want to have a nice life. I think that it's going to take a long time, though, to convince people not to violently hate communists. And I think that we can't call ourselves communists on the stage right now and expect to recruit people. I think we do have to call ourselves socialists, which is a bummer. I mean, I don't hide that I'm a communist. I'm never going to hide it. But in terms of marketing, the word socialism appeals to them more, right? So for your average everyday person, they're not afraid of the word socialism. And that's a win. That's good. It'll be great if we can get them not afraid of the word communism. I'm never going to deny being a communist, right? I'm not gonna. But we're starting to appeal to people. We're starting to lure them in, all right, with this word socialism. So that's good, I think. So I think once we get maybe, I don't know, a tenth of the population comfortable calling themselves socialists, I think things will start to change rapidly in this country. That's what I think. AOC got you into what you thought socialism was. Turned out Socialdem isn't socialist, and one of my videos on liberal versus leftist really got you into Marxism. Yay! Okay, that's so good. I'm so happy. And I use the wording in those videos intentionally because people are not afraid of the word leftist. So what I try to do is, well, if you're actually a leftist, here's the actual leftist political orientation on this issue. This is what the left actually thinks about this issue. And some topics are easier and harder than others, Like, Ukraine really convinced people that to be a good leftist, you support a fascist far-right government in Ukraine that made left-wing political parties illegal, whose military murdered leftists, socialists, burnt them alive in a building, who were, I don't know, I accidentally did that, sorry, who were running through the streets calling death to communists. They convinced leftists in America that the left-wing thing to do was support that government, and it's not. So some of these topics are really, really hot and hard to discuss at the time because people are very, propagandized. Yeah, it's like young women who don't want to be feminists because of the negative social connotations. Yes. I mean, there's also people who don't want to be feminists because they view feminism as an extension of a liberal ideology, and they think that the path to gender equality, right, comes only through communism or socialism. And, a communist interpretation of women's liberation is a little different, right? Yes, I indoctrinated you with the term leftist. Ha 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 ha. Yes. Okay, so, all right. Fuck, we ran out of time. I do have to jump off a little soon. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just summarize right now, talking about imperialism and Lenin's idea of imperialism, and we'll save the Sudan one for tomorrow because I'll be on at the same time tomorrow. So let's talk a little bit. Let's do a primer on this Lenin text on imperialism, and then we can carry it over into tomorrow's conversation too. Yes, the eastern part of Ukraine did have an independence movement, and they wanted to join Russia. But it's worth pointing out they did not want to leave Ukraine until the United States aggressively destabilized Ukraine and backed a far-right fascist government taking over there. So it's not like they always historically wanted independence. No, we fucking destroyed Ukraine. And then a group of people who were being aggressively targeted by the fascist new government we helped back there, who wanted to build an ethno-state there, they were being targeted because they weren't ethnically pure enough to be part of the Ukraine that these people were trying to build, then they wanted an independence movement. I don't know a lot about UK politics, but I would say do it. Why not? Yeah, do it. I'll give you guys homework. Sure, that'll be fun. Yeah, see Victoria Newland's leaked tape. Exactly. Okay, so we're going to pivot a little. We're going to talk about foreign policy. This will be a good precursor to tomorrow's conversation about foreign policy. We'll do some sort of foreign policy story. Maybe not exactly this one if something more interesting pops up, but we'll do a foreign policy day tomorrow. And the thing to really think about before we go into this is imperialism. So you'll see a lot of people use the term imperialism online, right? They think imperialism is just when big country does big things, or does anything, really. They're like, big country does trade, it's imperialist. Big country does war, it's imperialist. And that is not what imperialism is. Words have meanings. So imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism. So first and foremost, if you have a country that's socialist, they're not doing imperialism. You can have a country that's socialist doing something you don't like. That doesn't mean it's imperialism. Like, that's not what that word means. So Lenin basically has this work, right? Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism. This is a good outline. This is on Marxist.org. This is going to be the homework if anybody wants to read it, that I recommend everybody read. And this they took from Lenin's selected work. I was like, why does it start on page 187? So this is the whole kind of outline of it. It's not super long, but it is longer, right? It's like 100 pages. So you're not going to get through all of it, probably. That's okay. But we'll talk about some elements of it. So this review talks about, it's 128 pages. So yeah, okay. This review talks about his definition of imperialism, and he has five characteristics of it. The first is the concentration of production and capital developed to such a high stage that it created monopolies which play a decisive role in economic life. Okay, so you've got to have, monopolies. Like, basically when we think about corporate oligarchs, that's kind of the idea that Lenin's talking about here. So here in the United States, name the corporate oligarchies, right? Who are the corporations, the monopolies playing a decisive role here? Google, Meta, things like that. What else do we have? Apple, right? That's all. These are corporate oligarchies. To the extent that Apple, for example, made the Chinese tech companies illegal here, right? We know that. Meta fully was involved in the bid to shut down TikTok and make it sell parts of its ownership to U.S. companies, right? Because TikTok was outperforming it. So these are what we talk about when we talk about these monopolies that are created that play a decisive role in economic life. They're controlling us. It also, though, has to do with corporations that are considered too big to fail, like in the banking sector or in like the airline sector during COVID lockdowns. We saw that. So they were it was actually the reason that COVID lockdowns were lifted was to help support the airline industry, right? So we see monopolies that are creating a decisive role in economic life. So next is the merging of bank capital with industrial capital and the creation on the basis of finance capital of a financial oligarchy. So this one is pretty obvious as well. Like when we talk about banks failing, right? Banks that are too big to fail. I mentioned that earlier. This ties in with this as well. We have a financial oligarchy. Yes. And also think about how much is running on credit, right? The credit system here. There's like that famous quote that's like, if you owe the bank $100,000, that's your problem. If you owe the bank $100 million, that's the bank's problem. Like, it's this kind of thing. That's like a famous quote from a businessman here in the United States. Yes, I have a monopoly on rental units. So yes, everybody here, you're on the right track. Yeah. So someone said the U.S. is the center of finance capital and China is the center of industrial capital. And it does make sense, but in China, their industrial capital is not merged with private bank capital. So, yeah. All right, number 3, the extortion of capital, which has become extremely important, as distinguished from the export of commodities, or the export of capital, as distinguished from the export of commodities. So, yes, exactly. When you think about, here's like a good thing to think about. When you think about these AI companies we have here, and how they're basically buoying the U.S. economy, but it's all speculation. It's not like a commodity, actually, right? It's like you're making money by speculating on the value of something, and that in turn drives up its value. Like this complex web of nothing. It's like a nothing burger, but that's driving up our economy based on speculation. That's kind of an example of this. Also, what's an example of this, I would say, is the conditions that led to the housing crisis. Basically, banks were speculating on the value of subprime mortgages, and they were buying and selling subprime mortgages as a commodity. So that kind of complicated situation here. So then number 4, the formation of international capitalist monopolies which share the world among themselves. I think this is pretty obvious. Money has no borders, right? And we see this in some ways with more official kind of things like the IMF and the World Bank. And we also just see this with international banks. Like it was Chase Bank, right, that came into Haiti, marched down the street surrounded by guards, and just straight up stole gold from them and took it back to literally a bank on Wall Street. Like that was Chase Bank that did that. So yeah, we see these international capitalist monopolies sharing the world amongst themselves. Yes. Next, we have the territorial division of the whole world among the greatest capitalist powers completed. So we see this as well. This is what we talk about when we talk about the United States, for example, thinking it owns Latin America. In Venezuela, actually, I often say the first time we got involved in Venezuela was 1908. That's a little inaccurate. The first time we got involved in Venezuela was the late 1800s. And that's because another country, I think it was a European country, had a border dispute with Venezuela. And the United States showed up to defend Venezuela, not because we cared about Venezuela, but because we considered Venezuela ours, right? We're like, Latin America's us. That's our backyard. We own it. And that really is what we're talking about when we talk about the Section 5, right? Like, that's not American territory, but it doesn't matter. We have divided the whole world up into areas that are ours, whether they know it or want it or not. There's no sovereignty outside of the grasp of these imperialist powers. So I think that is pretty interesting. This is a good summary, but it is from International Socialist Review, which I can never remember all the letters. I'm like, is this a Trot org? I don't know. Sometimes I'll look at Trot papers though. I'm not going to lie to you, as long as they're about history. As long as they're not talking about anything current, I'm like, yeah, this will be fine for an analysis of something that happened in the past. Nothing that has to do with like, and I mean in the past, I mean like pre-USSR, right? Like when we're talking about Marx, we're talking about Lenin. You can find some okay stuff sometimes, depending. So this is, I think, a pretty good summary. ISReview.org, issues 44, imperialism. I also don't even know if ISR is International Socialist Review. Trotsky East. Yeah, it is. I thought so. I could tell. Something about the graphic design can tell you if an org is Trotskyist or not. Have you guys noticed that? If something's Trotsky, it's not even an org, but it's a paper, but still. You can tell by looking at it. You're like, I'm seeing it. There's some sort of a graphic design dog whistle going on. Okay, so this is something I think interesting to leave us on, the definitions of imperialism. Maybe we can do a little convo about that when we talk about foreign policy tomorrow. Yeah, so I think that's it. Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to say before we wrap up today's stream? No? Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here on the stream. I'm really enjoying Twitch so much. I can't wait to get better at it. All hail Chairman Fork, who is still asleep. Yeah, I'll send it in here. I'll send both links. Why won't it let me? I'm trying to send this link and it won't let me. Oh my god. Okay. If for some reason it won't let me copy and paste into the chat on OBS. Is that real? Is that real? Okay, ad block. Hold on. I'm typing this for you guys, though, really fast. Bloop. Yes. Okay. Bye.